In the land of Egypt, a young girl named Hagar was taken from her home, sold into servitude, and sent to a foreign land. She became the handmaid of Sarai, the wife of Abram, a man chosen by God. But Hagar's story was not one of mere servitude. It was a journey of pain, rejection, and ultimately divine encounter. This is her story.
You are a daughter of Egypt, my child. Never forget where you come from.
But I don't want to stay here, Mama. I want to see the world beyond these walls.
The world is not kind to girls like us. Some of us are born free, others are taken.
A knock at the door startles them. A shadowy figure enters, a slave trader. Hagar, now older, is in a caravan bound for Canaan, sold as a servant. She looks at the endless desert, the weight of her fate pressing on her shoulders. Another slave girl beside her whispers,
They say we will serve a wealthy couple. The man speaks to a mighty God.
If he's so mighty, why does he not see us?
The caravan stops at Abram's tent. Hagar steps out, her eyes meeting Sarai's calculating gaze. She lowers her head, feeling the weight of her chains even without shackles. Years later, in Sarai's tent, Hagar combs Sarai's hair while she speaks, frustrated.
The Lord has kept me from having children. I am tired of waiting.
My lady, surely your God will...
My God has made a covenant with my husband, but I am still barren. You will give him a child.
But I am only your servant.
You belong to this household, and now you belong to Abram.
Hagar's hands tremble as she combs Sarai's hair. She has no choice. Inside Abram's tent, Hagar sits, eyes lowered. Abram watches her, silent, his expression unreadable.
Hagar, you do not have to be afraid.
I have no choice, my lord.
Abram sighs, troubled. The tense candle flickers as he reaches for her hand. She closes her eyes, tears slipping down her face. Months later, Hagar places her hand on her swollen belly, sitting alone under a tree. A mixture of fear and pride fills her. She murmurs to herself,
This child is mine too.
You walk taller now, don't you? You think you are better than me?
I only carry what you could not.
Sarai slaps her. Hagar gasps, holding her belly protectively. Tears sting her eyes as Sarai storms away. At nightfall, Hagar runs, stumbling through the wilderness. She collapses beside a spring, sobbing.
God of Abram, do you see me now?
A bright figure appears before her, the angel of the Lord. His voice is calm, full of knowing. Hagar's tears dry as she looks at the angel, awe filling her heart.
Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?
I am running from my mistress.
Return to her, but know this, your son will be strong, a wild donkey of a man. He will not bow, nor will he be ruled. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your cry.
Hagar's tears dry as she looks at the angel, awe filling her heart. Dawn. Hagar stands at the edge of the camp, her hands resting on her belly. Sarai watches from afar, eyes sharp with suspicion.
The Lord has seen me.
She walks forward, determined. Sarai turns away, but Abram watches, thoughtful. Years have passed. Hagar watches from a distance as Abram kneels outside his tent, his face turned toward the heavens. He looks overwhelmed, tears glistening in his old eyes. She quietly listens as he speaks to God.
Lord, after all these years, you have kept your word.
Sarai emerges from the tent, her frail hands trembling as she cradles a newborn. Her face is a mix of disbelief and pure joy. She laughs, a laugh not of doubt this time, but of wonder.
His name is Isaac.
Hagar feels a strange mix of emotions. Relief that Sarai has what she longed for, but also dread, knowing this will change everything. A grand feast is held to celebrate Isaac's birth. Servants move about, guests rejoice, and Sarai is beaming, her pride clear. Hagar stands at the edge, watching as Ishmael, now a strong young boy, sits near the fire. He leans toward Isaac's cradle, amused by the fuss around the infant. He nudges Isaac's tiny foot, laughing playfully. Sarai across the tent stiffens, her expression darkening as she watches. Later, she pulls Abram aside, her voice sharp with urgency.
Ishmael mocks him. I will not have that slave woman's son inherit alongside mine. Send them away.
But Sarai, he is my son too.
No, Abram. Isaac is the son of the promise. Do not test the Lord's will.
Abram looks toward Ishmael, then at Hagar, who meets his gaze with a silent plea. But he already knows he has no choice. Hagar is awakened by footsteps outside her tent. Abram enters, sorrow in his face. He kneels beside Ishmael, resting a hand on his son's shoulder. The boy stirs, looking up groggily.
You must go, my son.
Hagar clenches her jaw, holding back tears as she gathers their few belongings. Abram hands her a skin of water and a bundle of food, his touch lingering for a moment. With Ishmael beside her, she steps into the cold desert night, the tents of Abram's household disappearing behind her. Years later, Hagar stands on a hill watching Ishmael, now a strong young man, teaching others to hunt. A smile touches her lips. Hagar's story reminds us that God's promises extend beyond human plans. Though cast out, she was never abandoned. God heard her cries, saw her pain, and made a nation from her son. To all who feel unseen, know this: God sees you,